Hello everyone, back to today's third video. We're going to do CFS 6 Month Look-Ahead for today's third video. So, as the name implies on the tin, we're going to go 6 months ahead with the CFS V2. And this is going to take us from next month, from February, right the way through to July 2019. So we're going to have a look at the 700 millibar height anomaly flowcharts first of all, and then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those heights, and we'll attempt to decipher what may be around the corner as we get to the next 6 months' time. Now, of course, this is just for fun, just a snapshot of what these of what the CFS V2 model is showing today. It's not to be relied upon. First month or two, yes, it does have some scientific merit. So hopefully February, March, if everything is working correctly, then that does have some scientific merit. But as we go sort of 3, 4, 5, 6 months away, really it's just for fun, and it's just to have a look at what the model is showing. But I'll get on that for you very shortly. Just say that today's first video was, of course, weekend forecast. So I was always on a Saturday, have a detailed look at the weather for the weekend. And then today's second video update was your regular week to 10 day video update, going through all of the computer models. So have a look at the two videos. Weekend forecast, of course, on weekend forecast page. And the week to 10 day video update is here on the home page. It's above the snow desk, so have a look at that and see what's going on. So we're going to start off with the 700 millibar height anomaly flowcharts first of all, and then as I say, we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with those heights. So we're beginning in February. So if everything's working correct, this is just 1 month away. So if everything with the model is working as it should be, this ought to be the most reliable out of all of this. So for February, we see that we've got a very, very strong northern blocking signal sitting to our north. A large area of above average heights is stretched out from Greenland, and it goes all the way across Iceland to Scandinavia, and then actually to the north of Scandinavia into the Arctic. So a big blocking feature is sitting to our north, and then underneath it, we've got this area of below average height sitting over and to the south of the UK. And so this should be a cold signal, really, for February. We've got above average heights and mid-Atlantic ridge through the centre of the Atlantic. And really, this should be a cold signal. You don't expect us to be bringing in east or northeasterly winds. So, excuse me, a pretty cold, blocked month being signalled there in February. And with that trough of below average heights, you would expect that there is certainly the chance for some snow as well. And then we go through to month 2. This is March, and again, we've got this little area of below average heights. It is weaker in March, but it's still there over the country. And essentially, we're still in a very block pattern for March. So we still have this area of above average heights to our north, and then again we're bringing in these winds you would have thought from the east or the northeast. So again, you would expect to have a pretty cold month in March with that blocking signal to the north. So both February and March could be cold and blocked months here if this is right. A long winter, if this is correct. Big if, of course. CFS is pro chopping and change, but they both have a very strong blocking signal, I have to say, for February and for March. Now, a complete change as we get to April. This is month 3, so it's a little way off, but we find that we've got below average heights appearing around Greenland and Iceland. Above average heights are building to our south, and so a total change in April brings the flow and the jet stream in from off the Atlantic. We lose all of that northern blocking, and so we revert back to a much more usual, much more typical type weather pattern with westerly winds and the air coming in from off the Atlantic. Could be quite unsettled, but overall a reversion back to what you would expect in the default sort of UK setup, which is westerly with low pressure to the north and high pressure to the south. Month 4 is May, so we're at the realm of just for fun now. We've got above average heights in May centred pretty much over the country. That looks quite nice, really. If that came off, you expect a fairly nice May with the flow and the jet doing something like that. A good deal of dry and relatively warm weather possible in May. June is looking like this, blocking re-emerging in June, so that's not normally a very good signal really in June to get above average heights appearing around Greenland and Iceland. This would tend to favour bringing the winds in from more of a easterly or possibly northeasterly direction, so it could be quite cool. There's no sign of low pressure, there's no sign of a trough, but what can happen, particularly in the summer, when you get these blocking features, is that you can get low pressure underneath it. So there could be some sort of area of low pressure underneath that with the flow and with the jet stream doing something a little bit like that. And then we go through to month 6, it's July, and we find that we've got a blocking signal again around Greenland and Iceland, so not a particularly good signal for July. We'd expect this to be pulling in again, quite chilly north or northeasterly winds, some sort of trough of below average heights possible around there. Again, don't worry about that at all. It's months 5 and 6, it's just for fun, it's just a snapshot of what the model is showing. It'll go through many different revisions before now and July before we hit on the pattern, so it's not to be worried about at all. But if that came off, then obviously it would be a relatively cool start to the summer. Right, let's come back to February, and we find that the temperature anomaly in February is forecast to be colder than average for much of northern Europe. So we've got Scandinavia here sitting on really quite cold temperature anomalies indeed, and also these cold temperature anomalies are extending into northern and northwestern parts of Europe, below average temperatures there. Down in the southeast of Europe, it's coming out warmer than average across the southeast of Europe, so it's this sort of balance in the weather system that the north and the west of Europe is cold, and the south and the southeast of Europe is quite a lot milder. And that's one of the classic balancing acts that goes on within the weather. If it's doing one thing in the northwest of Europe, it will tend to be doing the opposite in the southeast. Not always, but that does tend to be quite a classic sort of balancing act. Of course, normally it's the east and the southeast that are quite cold in the winter. The north and the west are getting those mild Atlantic winds. We go through to March, and those cold and average temperature anomalies kind of like fade out a little bit in March. They are still there across Scandinavia. Otherwise, we're very close to average temperature anomalies in March, but with so much northern blocking, I still can't really see a reason why March shouldn't be quite cold again, to be honest. So although that does show the cold sort of fading away in month 2, because of the very intense northern blocking signal that we saw in the 700 millibar height anomalies, I think there would be the chance anyway that that March could be really quite cold. Now, April goes milder than average, and you would expect that because we have a reversion back to a more typical weather pattern with low pressure up here, and then high pressure is kind of like down there, and we're bringing up those southwesterly winds into the UK and across much of northern Europe as well. So April, kind of like everything, gets back to normal. If you like, we go back to typical spring weather, which is relatively mild, and possibly, we'll see precipitation in a moment, but possibly quite unsettled. May looks milder than average as well, so after those couple of cold months in February and March, we find that May is coming out milder than average for much of the west and the north of Europe, also across Scandinavia. We've got that ridge sitting very close to the UK, of course, in May, and that will be sending the jet stream up to there. So quite a nice spring when it gets going, but it is a little bit delayed possibly in March. Then we're through to June. This is month 5, don't worry about it. June is coming out with average temperature anomalies, and then July also coming out with average temperature anomalies. And this tells us that basically what we're seeing here is but just the temperature is rather cool in June and July. The mean wind direction is kind of like northeasterly, so relatively cool months in June and in July. Not going cold on average, but certainly no sign of anything particularly exciting with the temperatures. Back to February for precipitation. So again, very dry signals for northern Europe. Look at this. We've got Scandinavia coming out very substantially drier than average around Norway. Iceland also drier than average, and up to Greenland and over towards Scotland as well. So obviously there's going to be some large areas of high pressure sitting here in the northern latitude. To the south of it, though, much of southern Europe is looking quite wet. This tells us that the jet stream is likely to be going down here somewhere from the Atlantic through the Mediterranean, so above average precipitation from Spain and Portugal in the west over towards Greece down in the southeast. So really unsettled month possible in the Med. France is interesting. It's wetter than average there, but with such a strong blocking signal, a lot of that could be snow. And of course for the UK, this is quite interesting because Scotland is dry, but England and Wales quite a lot wetter. And again, as that rain precipitation sort of engages with the blocking and the cold temperatures and the east and northeasterly winds, there is a prospect there for snow, particularly for England and Wales, I would have thought, in February. That's how March is looking. So we still see good evidence of that blocking signal. It's still largely dry on average around Iceland. It's still pretty dry over towards Scandinavia, particularly Norway as well. So you'd still be expecting to be having high pressure sitting up here. And then from these central parts of Europe, we come out with above average precipitation again. So it's not quite as an extremely blocked month as we had in February. We're probably not suggesting as much that southerly tracking jet stream going through the Mediterranean, but nevertheless I still think March could be quite a cold wintry month to go along with February too. Now by the time you get through to April, the pattern is reverting back to normal, so we're bringing in low pressure up here. We've got low pressure through there, we've got high pressure down here. We're bringing in these westerly winds. So although, of course, in April the temperature is lifting up because the winds are backing into the west and the southwest, it is more unsettled as well. So we come away with a rather wetter than average month in April. May goes quite dry. That's as that ridge of high pressure again is sitting very close to the UK and western parts of Europe. June, a little bit wetter than average in June, as I suggested, with a big ridge sitting up here. You would expect a corresponding trough somewhere around here. So possibly a little bit unsettled and cool in June. But July looks a little bit better, coming out slightly drier than average despite the disappointing temperatures in July. But again, I wouldn't worry about June, July, even May really, and probably even April. Wouldn't worry about those too much at all because there'll be a lot of reversions and a lot of revisions before we get to those months. But certainly February and March are looking quite interesting. It does look as though February could be quite a notably blocked month. There's a very strong signal for northern blocking in February that could deliver us into really quite a cold and wintry month. Now, as we get through to March, we do still have that very strong blocking signal. It is still quite intense, I think, in March. We just lose the trough and the southerly tracking jet stream a little bit, but I think March could also be quite a cold month, starting the spring off on quite a cold note, and then we revert back to those milder westerlies as we go through to April and finish the spring off with quite a nice May. That's all speculative. So that's your CFS 6 month look ahead for this month. A lot to be interested in from a cold perspective for February. I think out of all of it, it's the most interesting part of the update, what's going on there in February, extreme northern blocking and the potential for quite a cold and wintry month indeed. So we'll see how that plays out, of course. Now, tomorrow we're going to have the GasWeather Sunday Roundup. As always on a Sunday, we'll have your eclectic mix of this and that. Also tomorrow, we're going to have the ECMWF and Meteo France 30-day... talk about not 30-day, the ECMWF and Meteo France seasonal update. So that takes us through the spring and into the start of the summer. And then tomorrow evening, we're going to have a live chat with Quantum, hoping to start at 6 o'clock, run it from 6 till 8. So get your questions ready. We'll be live talking about the chances of cold weather and snow, taking your questions too. So busy day at GasWeather tomorrow. Keep checking back for all of the updates. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.